right, so in every layout, we have some essential elements, and excuse me, and those elements, what we mean by an element is an item that you place in your layout. A north arrow is an example of one of those elements, and those provide a few different functions. So they're going to orient the viewer, explain the map, and give credit where credit is due. So what do we use to orient the viewer? Well, the north arrow is one of those. The title. We'll talk about what goes into a good title. North arrow, title, and the scale. So we're like, what level are we looking at? Obviously, I need to fix that error in the fillableness. I'll have that fixed for you, but apparently I need to make one for the fourth element, which we'll talk about in a moment. Then to explain the map, we're going to have it wasn't the title. The date orients the viewer, so you know, like, how old is this? What's going on here? Then to explain the map, you're going to have your title, and you're going to have your legend. And then to give credit where credit is due, you're going to have your sources and your author. Map author or prepared by, that kind of thing. Okay, and then let's see here. So we've got author, sources, scale, title, legend, sources, author. Oh, and then to orient the viewer, you also need your coordinate system. That's the fourth item. You can fill it in number 4, but I'm not gonna pause us and fix that fill-in blank till I'm done with this video. So we're gonna call scale and the coordinate system, which we haven't learned too much about yet. Don't worry, it's coming up. We're going to do a full thing on coordinate system. It's not the same as the scale. It's supposed to be under item 4 here. Just apparently my fillable PDF needs fixed. All right, so what elements are essential in every map layout? We call these the 8 essential elements, and they do serve those purposes. So we'll talk about how to make each of them effectively, and then we'll insert them into our layout. So sometimes the elements outside your map in your layout are referred to as the map caller. So you'll notice when you work with USGS quad maps, sometimes people call those topo maps, topographic maps, but they're the ones that are at the standard maps at a 1 to 24,000 scale. They're the standard for navigating, especially navigating off trail, because they've got the topography in them. But you'll notice that all of the USGS maps have the same information. So when you look at the bottom of the map, you know right where to find, your quad locator, you know where to find the scale, you know where to find the, all that information. And so that's called a map caller. So sometimes you'll hear those elements that are outside of the map itself referred to as a caller. So let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and do this. We're going to add the 8 essential elements to our layout and talk about it a little bit, and then we can write about it. So let's go back to our Section 3 demo map, which is full of the data we added while we were doing Section 3 and full of the symbolization we created during Section 4. The first thing that I'm going to do when I'm ready to lay this map out is I'm going to change my names of any layers I have on the map so that my names are in plain English. So the first thing I'm going to do after I've inserted my map into my layout, I'm going to change my names so that everything's in plain English. What do I mean by that? You notice how this is a computer file name? Because GIS can't have any spaces, a lot of times our file names are going to have underscores, they're going to be have no spaces, and they're going to have things like, current year or whatever. So I'm going to change this to a name that makes just sense to me. So this is the layer of wolf packs. I'm going to call it wolf packs. Oops. I'm going to give it standardized capitalization, wolf packs. And so I can decide if every layer, decide on the capitalization. You can decide either, and this is 2022. You can decide to do either every word capitalized or just the first word capitalized. Just however you title your layers, you want them all to be consistent. So if this map has just one layer, it's a very simple map, but I'm only going to capitalize wolf. I'm not going to capitalize packs. I could choose to capitalize both of them. It's your choice. Then I've got pack status, and that doesn't have a space in it. So I'm going to give it a space, and I'm going to standardize my capitalization. So I'm just capitalizing the first word. Now it's fine if you want to capitalize both words. You just want to make it the same in all of them. And in fact, actually, I'm going to change it because all of these, I'd have to change all of these and to be just the first word capital, and it's easier just to change these two. So changing my mind, which we do all the time when we're designing a map. There we go. So now I've decided to standardize the capitalization as each word capitalized. And it's still the layer Wolfpack polygons, but it just has a prettier name. And we'll see why that makes a difference later, but I just want to make sure we start with that. So I'm going to start with that. Then I'm going to start inserting my elements. So I'm on the Insert tab. On the Layout tab, I have other options, okay? But when I want to add things to my layout, I'm going to use my Insert tab. And I've got some different things to add. Let's start with these are also called map surrounds. So map collar, map surrounds, elements. I'm going to add my north arrow. And so I click on it, and then I get a crosshairs to drag it on here. Now I have maximized the size of my map, so I don't have a lot of space outside of it. So I'm going to format things in a minute, but there's just a straight up map, standard north arrow. I can choose from a bunch of different north arrows, and in fact, you can find the one that you like the most. Maybe I'll do that one, and delete the other one. What you're going to notice is this one is barely visible. Let's format that in a minute. Okay, I'm going to line it up here with my guides and just put it in the corner. So I got my north arrow. Here's some information on a scale. In a map you're going to use for navigation, so a map you're going to use to find your way around, whether it's driving or hiking, you want to have both a scale bar and scale text. So a map you're going to use for navigation, you want to have a scale bar and scale text. In a thematic map, so a thematic map is a map that's showing ideas to the viewer, or just kind of giving information about the world around them that's not used for navigation, like demographics or the location of wolf packs. If you're not hiking into those wolf packs and you're not at the scale showing all of Washington, you can get away with one or the other. You don't need to have both. In a map you're going to use for navigation, you're going to have a scale bar and scale text. I'm going to show you where both of those are. In a map that you're going to use just for information, like showing how many wolf packs we have in Washington or something like that, you're just going to use one or the other. All right, so you can choose the scale bar that you like, and you can choose whether you want it imperial or metric. Generally, we still work in imperial. Got a simple scale line, and I'm going to click and drag that in there. And that is also barely visible because it's a dark map, dark base map, and it's on in black, but we'll fix that shortly. And then I'm going to add the legend last, and we don't have any charts. We'll deal with that later. But I am going to want to add some dynamic text, and by dynamic I mean the text will change as you change things on the map. So if you were to change the scale and you inserted a dynamic scale, that scale would change. So I'm just going to put that in there for now. We can choose whether we want a scale bar or scale text later. So you could put, what else? Oh, you're going to want your spatial reference, also known as your coordinate system. I will drag that on here. Like I said, things are going to be a little messy. Drag that on there. Let's see here. And then put the current time. That's going to give us the date. Which I'm not sure. Oh, that's going to be for when I output it. Then I don't need to put my map frame coordinates on. I don't need to indicate north or true north because I'm not navigating with this. Oh, sorry, it's under system that I want to put my current time, and I can put my user, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that one. And so system will have my current date and time. We'll move these around in a minute. And we can insert, my username is Marilyn.Nielsen, so I could put that in, or I could just type that in. I think I'm going to type it in. Date exported, date printed. I'm not going to worry about that. We'll talk about service layer credits in a minute. Yeah, and we're not going to use any of the statistics because we don't have a table in there. Okay, so let's take a minute and format the elements that we've put in here before we put the rest of them in. I'm going to go ahead and stick with the map scale rather like a visual scale. I think that's going to be easier for my viewers to understand when they see how many miles Washington State is across. So the first thing I'm going to go with is I need to format this north arrow, so I'm going to right click and go to properties. I like that symbol, but what I need here is I need to change my colors. Border background, let's see here. I'm not sure if I click on there. I'm going to click on the symbol itself for the element. So this is going to actually, I have to click on the symbol itself, and that's going to give me the colors. I don't want it to have a fill, I don't think. Let's see if we turned it white, how that would go. Apply that, and I'm going to pin my catalog so I have a little more space. Okay, white works, all right? And so that's where that happens. And there are lots of formatting options, just kind of showing you where these things happen. They do have elements, and you could choose, you know, things you want going on there. But next piece, I'm going to click on my scale bar, right click and hit properties. There it is, or I just need to click on it when I've got the element tab open, and scale bar will pull up. The scale bar, it's set to the map frame. The units are miles. They're positioned after the labels. That's fine. We could adjust the way that the scale bar is set up here. Formatting, we've got options going on there, and then kind of size and positioning. If we go to the text symbol part of the scale bar, I'm going to change the text to white. And I also want to change the text so it's the same type of text I use on my map. That's just going to make things look smoother. And so I'm going to change it. It's the TWCENMT that I used. So I'm going to change it to that text. That's going to help it look so it kind of matches with the rest of the map. And then the next thing I need to do is change my scale bar. And background shadow. The symbol here is a black line, so I go to my scale bar, symbol, and rather than black, I'm going to change it to white so it shows up against the stuff there. And why is that not? Oh, so that changed the bar but not the hash lines. I'm going to go ahead and zoom into my scale bar so you can watch this happening. So I just changed the bar, but now I need to change the division marks. So click on that again. We got to find those. There we go. Bar, I changed that, but what about my marks? And now I'm going to change those to white. White, apply that. Okay, so I got my major divisions changed. Go back here, and let's see, look at my marks again. And my subdivisions, I'm going to change those to white. You can see that there's lots of options in here. Okay, so now I've got a scale bar that should be making sense to us. All right. All right, I may want to change the position at some point, but we'll deal with that in a minute. Okay, so next piece, what else do I have going on here? I've got my spatial reference, and for your spatial reference, you want to include the name, but you don't need to include everything else. So conveniently, when we click on it and we pull it up in the element pane, we can actually choose the pieces of our spatial reference, also known as our coordinate system. We can choose the pieces of our coordinate system that are going to be meaningful to us, that we want there. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove the units and azimuth, scale factor, standard parallel, and what I will say is this is so much smoother than the last version of GIS that you don't even know how easy you've got it. Basically with every version they add some improvements, so every few years it gets a lot easier, and this is going to make, so I'm just right clicking on each of these rectangles to get rid of them, and when I'm done I'll be able to have a coordinate system that really, okay, and if I, let's see if I need to hit enter for that to show up. Okay, so now I'm going to get rid of my GCS. Boop. And my PCS. Boop. And now this is really when I say coordinate system, what we mean is we want the name of the coordinate system, and if someone has that name, they can find the other pieces, and if you include all the other pieces, it's not really meaningful for most map viewers. So when we show our coordinate system, we just show the name of the coordinate system, and then let's go ahead and format that text symbol. We're going to change it to white, and we're going to change it from Tahoma to, we were using 2SYN-MT. Let's hit apply and see how that looks. Okay, so now everything is kind of in this 2SYN-MT 10 point. From a size perspective, you don't really want to go any smaller than 8 point. Every now and again, something very ancillary, I'll put 6 point, but we've got that there. Then the current time, let's go ahead and get rid of the time because we want the date. And still says current time, but oh well. I'll show you an alternative to this process in a minute. And then let's make that text symbol, instead of Tahoma, 2SYN-MT, and let's make it white. All right, now we can't see it because it's there, but if we move it onto the map, it becomes visible. Okay, so I just kind of walked you through formatting the north arrow, a scale bar, the coordinate system, also known as a spatial reference, and the time and date. You could have the time up here as well. I just got rid of the time, and now it says current time, but just gives us the date. Okay, so I'm going to walk through the whole thing using these elements, and then I'm going to show you how to do it in another way. The other piece I want to add still, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I need to add the author and the title, and so to do that, I'm just going to add text. So I can use a text in a rectangle, or I can use straight text. The rectangle means you can change the size of the rectangle to adjust things, and the straight up text just means you've got a line of text, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and use a text line for my title of the map. So I'll click and I can type in the title, and let's see, what should I call it? Wolf Packs in Washington 2022. All right, so now my default text is black, and I hit C a couple times. So if I click off of that and I just highlight it, now I can actually change the text symbol. I can change, so this is our element pane is still up. I can change the name and the words here, and that's great. I don't know what general is, the name is just text. What I should point out, and you guys have probably noticed, as I've been adding elements, they're added to the contents of the layout right here. And so this text I just added is, in general, over here it's called text. I could call it the title, and then it would help me organize myself. So now if I look over here, I know that this is the title. If I look over here, that's going to be my time or my date, and I can name it over there. If I look over here, that is my coordinate system. So in general, I could call it coordinate system. Just if you're working with a large layout, this could be really helpful because you know what's what over here, and you can turn them on or off as you run your design. If you're inserting text elements, these are both box text. You could tell because they're in a box. This is line text because it's outside and it's just in a line. And let's go back to the title. So if we click on it now, and we've got our element pane open, if we click on it either over here in the contents or we click on it in the map, whoop, well, come on. So now I selected my map. I don't really want to. I want to select my title. So if I click over here in the contents, it easily selects my title, and I can do things like change the text symbol to 2SYN-MT. And just a little design tip. If you want to use the same font throughout the map, more power to you. It's going to give a real elegant kind of, it's an elegant choice. All right. If you want to have a different font for your title alone, that's permissible. That's something that, okay, that there could be a reason. Sometimes it makes the title stand out more or something like that. We do have some different options for 2SYN-MT. We could use the 2SYN-MT. There was a condensed one. I don't know what that one looks like. You could type it in here, or you could find it here. So we've got 2SYN-MT condensed extra bold. What does that look like? Let's apply that. Ooh, that might make a nice title font because it's in the same family, but it's different, slightly different. So Wolfpack's in Washington. And then we could give it a color. Right now, I'm going to choose white. We're going to be messing around with all these elements to kind of make them work. And then let's make it larger than 10 points. So your title, you want it to stand out because it orients your viewer immediately to, hey, what's this map about? They see the title and it's like, oh, I know what this map is about. So rather than 10 point, I'm going to make it like, I don't know, let's see what it would look like at 48. And then we can go back to our map and zoom out and hold down the C to pan up. Okay, well that's kind of fun, and I'm going to deal with its positioning and whatnot later. Apparently I locked the title here. You see how I can't select the title on the map? And it's got a little lock next to it. I must have hit the lock button, and so that makes it so I can't select an element. Which sometimes you want that to happen. Like let's say you get everything lined up just the way you want it and you don't want to accidentally bump it. It's nice to lock it. In fact, right now I'm going to lock the map frame because the map is zoomed in how I want it, and I'm just planning to work around it. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this because our layout is pretty and we wouldn't want to lose it. What else did I need to add? I need to add, and don't worry, we're going to line these up and make them pretty in a minute. I want to add more text for my name and sources. I don't have those on yet. So I hit my text box, and now wherever I drag, I'm going to get that, and I'm going to say paired by M. Nielsen. Now, you guys, you saw how in your dynamic text you could choose to insert the author, and then it's going to insert your default GIS name, and that's fine. You can do that. mine is Marilyn.Nielsen. I don't know. It really depends kind of what context you're working in. So I'm going to say prepared by M. Nielsen, and I'm going to change that the text symbol to 2cent MT and white. Apply that. Okay, so, and because it's a text box, if I pull on these handles, I can change some of those pieces. And then next piece, I want to insert sources. And so the sources are where you got your data from. I'm going to go ahead and use a text box again. And I'm going to say sources, colon, and this data was from Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. Okay, and of course I get my extra capitals, as I seem to do whenever I type quickly. All right, so you can use Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. You could also call them WDFW. It's okay to abbreviate the name of an agency if it's one of the standard abbreviations. So Forest Service is USFS. Montana Fish Wildlife and Parks is MTFWP. You just want to kind of know the agency you're working with. I'm going to go ahead and spell it out here. It also partly depends on your audience. If you've got a lay audience, fewer abbreviations is better. 2cent MT, apply. All right, so now all of these pieces are basically in 10 point. I can make them smaller if I want to. Let's see, I have most of my 8 essential elements. The one that I'm missing is my legend. So I'm going to go ahead and line these all up, and then I'm going to create my legend. So first off, let's play around just a little bit. Now, you can mess around in this for hours, I know, because I have, and many students have. But what we're going to want to do is, we've got, let's see here. What we're going to want to do is first, actually, before we mess around, we're going to want to deal with our service layer credits. And so I'm going to talk about that a little bit in the PDF in a minute, but right now while we're here, I want to talk about service layer credits. So I'm scrolling into here. These are automatically placed on your map. They're automatically placed on your base map, and they, let's see what I want to tell you about them. They are used to give credit for the base map. Sometimes they'll also include information from your layers, depending on what the metadata, we'll talk about metadata shortly, but what metadata for your layers look like. So you've got your information that gives credit for the base maps. Oftentimes these look clunky on the map, or especially if you have a really small map frame, they'll overwhelm the map frame and take over the whole thing. So oftentimes I want to manage my service layer credits. And to do that, I'm going to go up here. It's not intuitive. So pause and pay attention, because you're going to want to come back here. You're going to go to dynamic text, and you're going to go down to service layer credits. So if we're looking at the entire thing, you're going to scroll down till you get to service layer credits under layout. You're going to click on those, and then you're going to drag a box, and that box is going to put the service layer credits in it. If you delete that box, it will return to your layout. So Esri does this to cover their butt, so that they're giving attribution to the sources for their base maps. What you can do though, but what you might notice is they kind of throw the net broadly. So you've got all this information on here, and in fact, we don't have any data from the National Park Service in this base map, but it maybe does over the extent of its range. So what we're going to do is we've got two different options. We're either going to credit Esri in our sources, so Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife, and then you would add to that comma ESRI, and there's our credit for our base map, and you can go to Esri to find out what's going on with the base map. Or we're going to just place these somewhere unobtrusive on our map. And so, let's see. So if I did it that way, let's see, it would show up here, right? Or I can just take those and I'm going to make them really small and get them out of the way. I'm still going to make sure that they match with my font, 2cent MT, but I'm going to make them 6 point, and I'm going to keep them, I'm going to make them actually kind of a light gray, or medium gray, and I'm just going to tuck them right under here so they'll just be at the bottom, just outside the margin. So, service layer credits. You're either going to credit Esri in your sources, or you're going to tuck them unobtrusively somewhere else in the map so that they're not interfering, okay? So those are your two options. Either credit them in your sources, credit Esri in your sources, or put the service layer credits unobtrusively somewhere else. And you just saw what I consider unobtrusive. All right, so now I want to do something a little bit fun with the title. I really like the font, but I want to rotate this so that I can put it, I'm going to place it along the side here. I think it would look really cool along the side, which I'm going to need to shrink it a little bit. And I can do that using my handles if I've written in a text box, I can use that using my handles. I just think it would look cool. And especially because there's no Wolfpack information for the side of the state, that'll kind of emphasize that. Okay, so that's what I wanted to do with my title. We read top to bottom, left to right, so this is kind of consistent with looking at the map from the left. And then I'm going to go ahead and lock my title. Oh. Map frame, title, okay. Oh, I have these other texts on here that I didn't label, so I'm like, what are those? That's my service layer credits. Okay, that's, why can't I name that? Oh, general, so I'm going to call these service layer credits. Service layer credits, as long as we're going to be tidy here and keep track of things. And then this one is my sources. Sources, and then this one is my author. So lots of things you can do from the element pane so that your contents is easy to work with. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to go ahead and lock my title. Okay, it's locked now, so that I can deal with other elements without accidentally selecting my title. So I'm holding down C so I can pan here, pan, and I want to select my north arrow. And I want to move it out from behind the title. And then I'm going to zoom back out. Okay, so the next thing, I want to look for a place, like I said, I wanted my map frame to be maximized, so I'm going to end up placing all of my elements on the map itself, and that's okay as long as I have space that's not being used. So move that up there. I think I'd like to kind of run things along the bottom of the map with maybe a little bit of clustering, so I'm going to get them kind of out of the way of my title and then decide where I want them. Okay, so where's my best space here? My best space here is going to be, I've got a little bit of space under here, I've got more space kind of over here, but that's a little crowded with the title. I'm going to go ahead and put my north arrow, see what it looks like in this corner, kind of like corners for north arrows. If I want to, I can make my north arrow a little bit smaller too, because it's not that important. Okay, we're not navigating this with this map, so the north arrow is really not that important. I like it in that corner, so there, I got one element placed. My other elements, let's see here. Sometimes it's nice to have scale next to the north arrow. It doesn't have to be that. I'm going to kind of put it over here because I've got a little bit of space. See how it goes there? That's the center. I've got kind of a good space here, and I'd like to cluster my text in this area. So here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to start with prepared by, and then sources. So I'm going to give my credit here. It depends on, okay, so let's zoom in a little bit to this quadrant of the map. And then current time is kind of ugly, but we'll go ahead and keep it because we started with it. Current time, and then spatial reference. And it looks like these will stack. I try to stack them with my eye, but you notice like my eye is not that good. And my eye and my hand aren't that good. But why is this, I'm kind of wanting this to, okay, that's just going to say spatial reference name. That's fine. So what I'm going to do, I want to show you, this is what I wanted to show you. I'm going to hold down Control so that I can select each of these elements. Okay, maybe I'm going to hold down Shift so I can select each of these elements. Yeah. Okay, so I've got 4 elements selected. Now I'm going to right click, so I used Shift to do that, and I'm going to align them. I'm going to align them all left. Now they're all lined up. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute them so they're distributed vertically evenly. And now, doesn't that look tidier? Okay, so rather than having them kind of try to eyeball, I can align them all together. And then the last thing I'm going to do, I deselected them, so I want to select them all again carefully. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to group them so that I can move them as a group. So if I'm like, okay, can I grab them and shift them over just a little bit, or shift them over this way a little bit? So I just showed you some nifty tools. And this all works pretty well. I'm going to see something if they're grouped. Okay, so if they're grouped, we don't have all of the options with respect to font. But part of the thing that's making me a little bit uneasy is that my ancillary elements, so my essential elements, which are kind of about the layout, they're not the focus of the map. They're larger than my pack labels. I don't really like that. I kind of want them, the font to be smaller than my pack labels, because my pack labels should be like front and center, kind of the most important thing. So there's a few things I can do. I think I'm going to change this by changing the size of my pack labels. So I know that these are all 10-point font. I'm going to need my pack labels to be 11 or 12-point font or larger. I think that's how I'm going to change this, but these are kind of the design decisions we make as we go. So we've just got all of our elements in there. You can see this this overwhelms the layout. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to ungroup these and change them to 8-point font. So ungroup. And now that they're ungrouped, I can go to text symbol. I've got them all selected. And instead of 10-point, I'm going to change them to 8-point and apply that. All right, so now they're kind of spread out because they're 8-point. But they're still all selected. I'm going to mess with them a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'll scoot my spatial reference down just a little bit. I'm going to scoot them down a little bit, and then I will distribute them mechanically. Oh, come on, I need my current time. Current time. So what we saw is if we have multiple elements selected, we can change the font for them all at the same time. That's what I wanted to point out. Okay, now I need to select these all again using my shift. Oh, looks like I'm having a hard time getting my current time. Oh, I got it. Nope, maybe I don't. Prepared by, sources, current time, and spatial reference. Now I'm going to right click. I'm going to align these all left. Right click. I'm going to distribute them vertically. Now I might scoot them over just a little. Let's zoom out and see what that looks like. That is less overwhelming on my map. That's positive. All right. And still 8-point is good enough. Oh, I forgot I was going to group them. I can also click and drag over all of them. So they're selected, right click and group. Now they're going to move as a whole when I move them. And I can decide, oops, unless I, okay. Did I get them grouped? Yeah. so I can move them together here. I could also align them if I ungroup them. I could also align them all right. Your choice. I think I'm going to go ahead and pause here, though. I think that's mostly unobtrusive enough. It's kind of in a big stack. I'm going to shift that over a little bit. And I can change the size of my scale. Have that sitting right there. Okay, oh, let that. Alright, got that in miles. Maybe I'll just center that. Okay, so essential elements, moving right along. Then the last piece. Okay, so I would say this is not perfect, but it's probably good enough for the moment. I'm going to go ahead and lock my grouped elements so I don't accidentally mess with it. And notice that it's got all the pieces in there: sources, author, date, coordinate system. It's nice to be able to see that because I gave each of these, instead of being called text, they have the name of what they are. It's just going to keep your work organized. And then I got my title and scale bar, north arrow. I'm going to go ahead and lock these because I'm also happy enough with where they are. And I'm going to insert my legend next. I'm going to actually do this on the next demonstration because there's a lot of time that goes into finessing the legend, and I want to talk you through that. So we're good here. We're still going to add the legend, but we need to catch up in our PDF. So dynamic elements, these are going to change. Change as your map is adjusted. For example, scale. For example, scale and coordinate system will change if you adjust these on your map. All right. Dynamic elements, we like them. It makes it easy to make adjustments to your map, and then your layout is already, you don't have to redo the whole layout or redo the elements there. All right, and so this is where we get to dynamic text. We already walked through that. And then these elements up here in the map surround are also dynamic, so they will also change as you adjust your map. Tips for each element. Okay, the title. The title should give a, should answer the questions where and what. I should say that. Answer the questions where and what. All right. So you want to watch your title for that. The title that we put here, wolf packs, what in Washington, where? Oh, and if you can answer when, if that's appropriate, answer that too. What? Maybe also answer when. So be descriptive. Yes. Okay. Your legend, will come back to that. Your scale. Use a bar and text when your map is going to be used for navigation. For navigation. Use one or the other for a thematic map. Okay. The date, you can insert this with the, it was current time, or type it in a text box. Okay? And then the north arrow should not be a focus of the map. Small and not too fancy. Okay? Or OL, okay. All right, coordinate system, just use the name, delete the other tags. All right, and the author, you can say prepared by and type it in, or use the dynamic text option and it'll pull your ArcGIS Online name. All right, which works all right if you're working a lot in ArcGIS Online, which we're not in this class. And then sources, use full names of agencies or ACRA or the standard, depending on audience. Okay, our standard acronyms depending on the audience. Okay. Okay, so indicate sources for all of your layers. Okay. Service layer credits. We talked through those in the demonstration. They do sometimes include the sources for your layers if those sources are clearly included in the layer's metadata, as well as the source that Esri used to create the base map. Okay. I should say up here, credit Esri if you remove the service layer credits. Okay. All right. Service layer credits, you can move them. So you need to insert from dynamic text. And move off of the layout to the, okay, moves up, so that just means to the gray area off the layout. If you delete them, they'll come right back on your base map. Don't, sorry, this is what I meant. Don't delete, or they will come back to the base map awkwardly. This is actually what I meant to say for replace them. So I'm gonna put that down there. Move them off the layout. Don't delete, they'll come to the base map awkwardly. Oh, are these not? Apparently these aren't wrapping. I'll fix that for you guys though. Back awkwardly, and then that last thing I want to say, now add Esri to your sources. All right, there's that. And then move them. You're going to insert from dynamic text, make them small and unobtrusive, include somewhere on your layout. Okay, so those are your options. We talked through those when we did our demonstration. Okay, so we're going to come to legend in the next segment of this demonstration, because I don't want to make this one too terribly long. I will see you then, and we'll have some fun with our legend.